piece of paper means nothing here, Mr. Davis. I suggest you review the bylaws immediately or face the consequences.
At 6:12 a.m. on May 3, 2024, I stepped onto my back deck with a mug of bitter coffee and heard metal clinking by the water like someone was building a trap. Cold lake air hit my face. The boards of my little dock were still wet from last night's rain. And right there, where my path meets the shoreline, the HOA had driven fresh stakes into the dirt and stretched a chain across it. New warning signs flapped in the wind. A flashlight beam bounced around, and the HOA president stood there in fuzzy slippers like she owned the sunrise. By 9:00 a.m., I knew this was not just about a chain. It was about control, money, and who gets to breathe near the water. HOA posted my lake over a bogus deed, then the clipboard exposed their whole scheme was the only sentence that fit the way my stomach dropped. It's deeded to my lot. Not shared. I bought this place because of that lake edge. Now the chair was acting like she could erase it with a stapled notice and a smug smile. I tried to be normal about it. I walked to the clubhouse with my deed in a folder and my nicest shoes on, like the paper would calm everyone down. The board rep at the front desk wouldn't meet my eyes. She tapped her pen and told me the lake was now common area. I said that makes no sense, the plat shows my boundary. She said, you can submit a request in writing. Then she slid a form across the counter like she was feeding a zoo animal. Around me, neighbors stared at the floor. One guy pretended to read a flyer. A woman grabbed her kid's hand and backed away like conflict was contagious. That night, they emailed me a violation and a fine for unauthorized lake access. The amount was $800, spelled out in cheerful bold like a party invite. I replied with my deed attached. No answer. I called twice. No answer. I knocked on the HOA president's door once, just to ask if this was a mistake. She cracked it open and said, "Stop harassing me," and closed it again. My line in the sand showed up right there on my porch. I promised myself I would do this the clean way. No yelling. No stunts. Just proof, rules, and patience. The next morning, I started building my case like I was building a fence. One board at a time. I took photos of the chain, the stakes, and the new posted signs. I saved every email. I wrote down every phone call with date and time. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. Then I went downtown to the county records office, because paper lives there, not at a clubhouse. The clerk slid a stamped file across the counter with a tired look, and the file landed with 74 pages. My hands did not shake. I just thanked her and started reading. The deed the HOA bragged about was not a real deed for my shoreline. It was a messy filing with a legal description that looked copied from somewhere else, plus a weird notary block that didn't match our county format. And the best part? The HOA's own notice had the recording number typed at the bottom. They thought nobody would check. I made a simple timeline on a yellow pad, because chaos hates dates. Timeline item 1 April 5th at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. That was the night a deputy knocked and asked why someone reported me sneaking around the lake. I live there. The board held a meeting on May 20th, 2024, and I showed up early with my binder, a calm face, and a copy of the plat map in a clear sleeve. The chair sat at the front with her clipboard like it was a scepter. She started talking about protecting community assets and liability, and everyone nodded like robots. Then she looked at me and said, "You are trespassing on HOA property." I asked one thing, slow and polite. "Can you read the legal description from the deed you filed?" Her eyes flicked down to her clipboard. She froze. She tried to wave it off. She said, "We have it on file." I said, "Great, read the first line." The room got quiet in that painful way, like when a teacher catches someone cheating. She flipped the pages too fast and the papers slid out. A corner of the deed copy flashed, and I saw it again, the recording number, and a name that was not mine, and not the HOA either. I picked up the page, held it steady, and asked the board rep, "Is this the deed you used to post my shoreline?" Her lips turned white. She reached for the paper like she could swallow it. Phones came out before the chair could even speak. Not dramatic. Just real. People held them low, like they were ashamed but still hungry for the truth. Someone whispered, "That's not his lot number." Another neighbor said, "I thought this felt wrong." A guy in the back muttered, "They told me we'd all get lake rights if we paid." A mom near the door whispered, "I got a letter about a special assessment." In the group chat, my phone buzzed like an angry bee in my pocket. "Did you see her face? What is that paper? I'm recording. They lied to us." My neighbor 2 doors down finally looked me in the eye and nodded, like permission. 2 days later, I filed 4 complaints the boring way, 1 with the county recorder, 1 with code enforcement about the illegal stakes and chain, 1 with the state HOA office about improper filings, and 1 with the sheriff's office about the false reports. I kept it plain. Just dates, copies, and photos. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. That sentence sat in my notes like a seatbelt. On May 28, 2024, a county investigator called me back. Her voice was calm, but it had steel in it. She said the document was under review for misrepresentation and possible fraud. On June 4, 2024, at 10:30 a.m., the flip finally happened in daylight. A county surveyor walked my shoreline with a measuring wheel while an inspector from code enforcement took photos of the stakes. A deputy stood nearby, hands on his belt, not mean, just present. The HOA president tried to play sweet. She said, "We're just securing community property." The investigator held up a copy of the plat and pointed to the line like it was a simple math problem. She explained, in plain words, that the HOA cannot claim private shoreline by filing a document that does not match the legal description, and they cannot block a deeded access path without permits. Then she asked the chair who authorized the filing. Nobody answered. The air in the room changed after that, even before anyone said consequences. It was like a spell snapped. People who had been slumped in their seats sat straighter. The board members stopped smiling. Neighbors stopped avoiding eye contact. You could feel the bully losing oxygen, because everyone could finally name what was happening. Phones stayed up now, not hidden. A few people started taking notes like they were in class. The HOA president kept clearing her throat, but no sound came out that mattered. The board rep stared at the table, blinking fast. Even the guy who always defended the HOA folded his arms and leaned back, like he needed space from them. Within a week, the chain was gone. The stakes were pulled. The HOA sent a correction notice that didn't say sorry, but it did say the lake edge was under review. That was their version of crawling. The county recorder flagged the filing and started a formal process, which meant the bogus deed stopped working like a magic trick. The deputy told me they were documenting the false calls, because there had been 3 in 2 months, and that matters. Neighbors started talking again. Not gossip. Real talk. One couple offered to walk with me to the next meeting, so I wouldn't be alone. That's when the neighborhood behavior really shifted, and it was wild to watch. The loudest people got quieter. The scared people got braver. Folks who used to whisper started speaking in full sentences. When the HOA president walked by, nobody rushed to flatter her. They just watched, like she was a balloon losing air. More phones showed up at meetings, not for drama, but for proof. People asked for minutes. They asked for votes. They asked for receipts. The board couldn't hide behind fast talk anymore because everyone had learned one simple thing: paper beats attitude. By July 1, 2024, the HOA withdrew the fine, and they refunded the handful of lake access permits they had tried to sell for $200 each. A new interim chair took over, and the old one stopped coming out much. The county never told me every detail, but I didn't need the full movie script. I just needed my dot back, my quiet mornings back, and a community that stopped flinching. On a calm evening, I sat by the water with the binder on the table beside me, flipped to the stamped pages, and listened to the frogs like they were applause. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and share. Was the HOA wrong? Drop a comment.